World Health Organization has agreed to a legally binding pandemic treaty. Now, we're going to tell you what this means for countries all over the world, but also why it matters for the United States, even though President Trump has withdrawn from the WHO. First, we'll read you the points highlighted by the BBC. They say members of the WHO have agreed to the text of a legally binding treaty designed to better tackle future pandemics. The pact is meant to avoid the disorganisation and competition for resources seen during the COVID-19 era. Key elements include the rapid sharing of data about new diseases to ensure scientists and pharmaceutical companies can work more quickly to develop treatments and vaccines. That's your Bill Gates 30-day vaccine turnaround times. And also, for the first time, the WHO itself will also have an overview of global supply chains for masks, medical gowns, and other PPE. Now, listen to this paragraph. This is the one that I really want everyone to pay attention to. US negotiators were not part of the final discussions after President Trump announced his decision to withdraw from the Global Health Agency, and the US will not be bound by the pact when it leaves in 2026. Now, why are the BBC saying 2026 where the US is concerned? Well, we can assume that's because the International Health Regulations, or IHR amendments, agreed to by the Biden admin. In fact, it was Biden that instigated the IHR amendments. Countries can state their intent to leave, but they won't officially be out for a period of time. That means that technically the BBC is right. Not only is the US technically bound to the IHR, the US is also technically bound to this pandemic agreement as far as the WHO is concerned. Now, whether the Trump admin will comply with the WHO's legal nonsense is yet to be seen. To go through every single element of the pandemic agreement would take us all day, so we want to give you some of the key points. The pandemic agreement references the IHR in several places. From James Roguski's Substack, we can look at excerpt from page 6 of the pandemic agreement referencing pandemic-related health products, and then you see that they refer you back to the IHR. Now, this is purposely very confusing. It is done with the intent to conceal the truth from the public. That is my firm belief. But when we look at the IHR amendments, an excerpt from page 5, we see what relevant health products are. They include medicines, vaccines, diagnostics, medical devices, vector control products, personal protective equipment, decontamination products, assistive products, antidotes, cell and gene-based therapies, and other health technologies. So in essence, they want full control over every single aspect of a country's health. And let's not forget that part of their goal is pandemic prevention. And we can tell you what that looks like from a country like Australia, whose politicians and unelected bureaucrats are fully on board with everything the WHO does. They published a report called Strengthening Australia's Pandemic Preparedness in 2022, referencing how they would manage future pandemics. That report, in essence, says that in order to prevent pandemics in future, we'll need to preemptively inject people regularly. You know what other document says we need to do that? The National Blueprint for Biodefense submitted to the US government last year. It was signed off by Joseph I. Lieberman and Thomas J. Ridge, both on record supporting mandatory vaccination. On page 109 of that report, they say that we need to authorize a vaccines for adults program. That's right, like a childhood vaccine schedule for adults. And they say that we need to amend the Social Security Act essentially to expand access by uninsured adults to routine and biological event vaccines recommended by the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices at no cost and cover provider fees and program operations. Congress should appropriate long-term mandatory funding for the program. Now, we don't want to get too far off track here, but it's important to understand the intent of the WHO and governments who comply with them. We're not talking another COVID where you were able to find a way out. We're talking, AI told us there's going to be another pandemic because we programmed it to say that after someone sneezes in Croatia, and the AI has developed an injection just for this. Here it is, ready basically overnight, and it must be taken to avoid a World Health event. According to the IHR, countries also need to commit to addressing, quote, misinformation and disinformation. So in essence, they're demanding all member states implement censorship around health products or health topics because the WHO is the ultimate authority. Article 4 of the pandemic agreement talks about pandemic prevention and surveillance and says that all member states shall take all necessary steps to comply. According to the IHR, surveillance means the systematic, ongoing collection, collation, and analysis of data for public health purposes. That means they expect every country that is part of the WHO to put their citizens under constant surveillance. But it's not only that, it's a complete grift. They talk about sustainable financing and a coordinating financial mechanism being established. That means member states need to finance this complete worldwide medical tyranny. Now, do you remember recently, we're talking like this month, just the other day, where Fauci said there will be the emergence of another respiratory disease? Take a listen.
What is likely to happen, I don't know if it's going to be next year or 10 years or 15 or 20 years from now, is the emergence of another respiratory disease. It may be another coronavirus, because we know that coronaviruses really, mostly in bats, have the capability of binding to receptors that are in humans. It could be another flu. We're dealing with H5N1 now, which is bird flu, which has taken the somewhat disturbing step of infecting mammals, namely cows and cats and other mammals, which means it's adapting itself more to a human. So my concern, Walter, is that whenever that happens, the next outbreak will be of a respiratory disease that's easily transmissible, that has a significant degree of morbidity.
And we are making this a little bit more dangerous with the cuts and our attitude toward science?
Oh, absolutely.
So basically, we have Fauci re-emerging to warn us another pandemic is coming, referencing H1N1. The WHO puts every country under worldwide medical tyranny, and we have the FDA approving H1N1 saRNA vaccines all in the same month. Now, I've been studying these people for a very long time, and I don't believe in coincidences. What I do believe in is people being able to thwart their plans. Remember monkeypox and how everyone spoke out, mocked it on social media, and within a few weeks we barely ever heard about it again? That's how this needs to go. And the US needs to show leadership here, completely ignoring anything coming out of the WHO, with other countries following suit. If they are indeed planning another pandemic, the compliance levels will no doubt be nowhere near what they were last time around. People are far too awake now. The message is clear. Exit the WHO, exit them now, effective immediately, and that goes for the UN as well. Every country needs to become concerned about itself and how it manages its own problems. We don't need global governance on absolutely any level. Since 2021, our sponsor Above Phone at abovephone.com/pulse has been creating friendly technology ecosystems where people are empowered and free, not surveilled and controlled. Above empowers not only by providing top-of-the-line privacy devices to people like me, but also by educating the public. And they're inviting the Daily Pulse audience to their next free webinar on April 28th to learn more about the dangers of big tech and the freedom that real privacy provides. They're also offering the Daily Pulse viewers $50 off any device this week only when you use code PULSE at abovephone.com/pulse. Every day, most of us are spending hours online and on our devices. Whether we realize it or not, this involves a complex balance between convenience and vulnerability, particularly within ecosystems dominated by major tech companies. Join our sponsor Above Phone for a free webinar on April 28th to explore the difference between abusive ecosystems that only serve to exploit you and empowering ecosystems that offer you complete freedom. Register and browse their deeply discounted products at abovephone.com/pulse. In this interactive webinar, you'll find exactly where you fall on the privacy spectrum. Are you as private as you think you are? Above's team will reveal the truth about big tech ecosystems, how to protect your devices from big tech, the power of the Above ecosystem, how Above products can work together or be used on their own, how to tailor your ecosystem to suit your unique needs. An overview and demonstration of the Above Phone, Above Book, and Above suite of services. Don't trade your privacy for convenience. You can take back control of your tech, and Above is here to help. And don't forget to use code PULSE at the checkout to save $50 off any device at abovephone.com/pulse. That's $50 off already discounted privacy phones, laptops, and Above's new privacy tablet. Go Above and order your new device today.